Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Chats, Stats, and Fun Facts, a 2025 season preview brought to you by the Drive Pink Dialogue. And in today's episode, we are talking about David Ruiz, the young midfielder that has come with a vengeance. Now, here is my fun fact for David Ruiz. His first career goal came on May 13th against the New England Revolution 2023. And in that game, he also had an assist and 2 yellow cards. He got a red card. He got sent off before the game even ended. So what an eventful evening for him that was. And I think that is a very fitting fun fact for the conversation we're about to have about David Ruiz. Saur, what is the first thing that comes to mind when I say David Ruiz?
Yeah, that fact absolutely blew my mind. Not because it happened, but because it was David Ruiz and so on brand. Like exactly what you would expect of him.
By the way, credit to you for that one. You were the one who found that fun fact.
Yeah, but it's so funny. But what comes to mind when I think of David Ruiz is Redemption 2025. That needs to be his tagline because I still have a little bit of hatred in my heart for David Ruiz for getting that red card against Monterrey. I'm not gonna forget that. That for me was a big blip on our season.
It was the most memorable thing from the season.
Exactly. And it's never a good sign when that's the case with a player. Listen, I really like David Ruiz. I think he's a good squad player, brings a lot to the team, and he had a good end to the season, but needs to redeem himself. And hopefully this season he doesn't have any negative moments. And every time we talk about David Ruiz is in a positive light. So Redemption 2025 for David Ruiz.
Yeah, he's about to turn 21. So this is an age 21 season. That is like getting into being a professional. And I think that is important to note. You're kind of leaving the young player mold. I mean, you're a young player, but you're not like a breakout young player. So the expectations have to be a little bit higher. And we understand he's not fully developed. He is a full senior team international for Honduras. And so congratulations to him for that. Here's his stat line from 2024. 34 games, which is actually more than I was expecting. He had 22 bench appearances, 12 starts, 1,228 minutes, 2 red cards, which you mentioned a very notable one. 1 goal and 2 assists. You know what his other red card was? You know when that came?
I can't remember.
That was against Philadelphia. That was the first player to get kicked, to get a red card in that game. He had
if
2
not
yellows.
For Leo Fonso, that would have been another bad talking point.
Well, also Toto Avila's got kicked out, got a red card in that game 20 minutes later. So, but certainly Leo Fonso and Yannick Bright made that game memorable for a good reason. Where do we start with David Ruiz? Because he feels like he's potentially easy to forget if you're just looking at the highlights and the big names. Right? Because there are a lot of big names in the midfield specifically. Busquets, huge name. You got the big signing of Federico Redondo. You got the big signing of Telasco Segovia. You got Ian Frey, who's very exciting. You got Benjamin Kramaski, who's sort of the golden boy on the cover of the TV commercial for the MLS. Like David Ruiz is just sort of there, and yet he's there for a reason. He belongs there. So I don't want to let him get forgotten because I think he can have a really big role in 2025. And I'm excited to see how he takes advantage of that.
I'm going to start by saying that I think David Ruiz is very important for this squad. He's a very important piece that is underappreciated. He does things that are underappreciated. He does the dirty work at times. And as a squad player, when you bring him on in the 60th minute, he'll give you everything. He'll run for you. He'll defend when needed to. He can find a pass or two. He can score a goal as well. Very underappreciated player, very good quality MLS player. I think he can fit in on any other MLS roster and actually have a really good impact. So for me, I really like him. I think if he can refine some of his gameplay, not get red cards in difficult moments, and maybe just improve a little bit on certain aspects of his game, I think he can be a really good bench option, but also in games when you need to fill bodies, he is a perfect option to have. So I like him as a player. I think he definitely has a future on this team. And I think he's going to have a good season in 2025. I've said that about practically everyone that we've talked about so far, but I think he can definitely have a role to play on this team, whether it's off the bench or from the starting 11.
Yeah, I remember. Obviously, we didn't do this 2 years ago, but heading into the 2023 season, there was like a lot of players that I'm like, I don't know about this guy. I don't really like this player and his impact on the team and stuff. I'm sure they're all great people, but it does feel like this roster has a lot of guys that we like, and not really any guys that I just don't see it with. Anyways, David Ruiz is, I think my thing with David Ruiz is when he's 24 and 25, he's going to be a really good MLS starting level midfielder. And so what does the path look like from him where he is now, where Inter Miami has all this crazy talent, to being Inter Miami starting number 8 in 2020, 2027, 2020, when he's 24, 25, and then carving out a really nice career for the next 5 years as a starting MLS midfielder. What is the steps from here to there? And I think it's just more of the same of just trying to improve every year and learning from the guys that have the big name and the huge experience, and then still getting your 1,500 to 2,000 minutes. I will say, I think our supporter shield hopes are going to rely a lot on David Ruiz, because I think a lot of those weekend games, when we have big midweek games in the CONCACAF Champions Cup or the, whatever tournaments we have, the Leagues Cup or whatever, like he's going to be a key contributor for the sort of rotational team. And if he plays well, we're going to win those games because he has that kind of talent. And if we win those games, we're going to stay in the race for the supporter shield. And then we might win the supporter shield this year or come first in the East or whatever, and look back and say, wow, if it wasn't for David Ruiz, that would not have happened. Please, no more red cards. I looked at his he feels like a midfielder with a lot of bite, but he didn't get a ton of yellow cards last year. He had one very memorable red card, which stands out, but it wasn't like he was Toto Avila's just accumulating.
And that was the problem, I think.
Cards.
It was just getting a red card in a difficult moment when the team needed him to just be calm and composed. So I don't think he is particularly undisciplined on the pitch. He's fine. He does his job really well, but going back to his attributes and what he can actually do for this team, yes, he's a box-to-box 8. Definitely has a good athletic posture on him, can run with the ball, has an eye for a goal as well. He scored a couple of goals. I think if he improves on his passing, that would be a big asset to him for sure. And I can almost see him maybe in the next few years develop into a 6 as well. If he bulks up, becomes a little bit more physical and athletic, I can see him having a good future as a number 6 destroyer. Because listen, he's played as a right back, so he has that defensive instinct, and he has the legs for it.
He got his opportunity in 2023 because Jean Mota and Gregory both got hurt, and we just didn't have anyone. Yeah, and he played that number 6 role, and so for a while there, I thought he was a number 6 because that is what he was playing on a consistent basis. And, once we brought in Dixon Arroyo and stuff, we saw more of his game. And you're right. He does have the ability to get forward. He does have some bite. We saw him last year in the preseason. Tata Martino played him higher up the pitch. He had that really nice goal against, I want to say, Al Nassr in the preseason, where he kind of whipped it around the goalkeeper, got us back into that game. So you're right. He's got some offense to his game. He's got some box to box, and he's got some bite defensively. Well-rounded midfielder. It's just about consistency, just inching upwards in every single level. And I think that's what 2025 is going to be about. But let's talk about this rotation, because I think it's easy to slot him in when the team's rotating, but I do think it's going to be hard to slot him in. I find it hard to see him catching a starting spot in 2025. Yeah. And I hope I'm wrong, but I just think that's where he's at for this season, because he's not going to win it over Busquets. And then you're going up against Redondo and Kremaski and Segovia and Yannick Bright. It's a lot to ask of him. And I would love to see him take that step, because that means he's become a really good player. But I think that's his role this year, is more when you rotate, you're going to be the starter, be good in those games. And then maybe you can earn some more minutes in the most important games, right?
Yeah, for sure. I think to begin with, he's going to be a bench option. And based on how he performs, when we have to rotate our squad, he's potentially going to get an opportunity to start. But other than that, I don't see him being at least higher up in the rotation cycle. We've just got that much talent in that midfield, man. And honestly, it really depends on what formation Javier Mascherano plays as well, how many and what kind of midfielders he wants in that squad. But if we're going a little bit more defensive this year, again, based on only one sample size of one preseason game, if we plan to sit back a little bit more, have a more compact structure, I think he can fit that. That suits his style a little bit. And he can give you that little bit of a defensive option to sweep up when other players go forward and give a defensive cover. So it'll be interesting to see how he fits in the system. And maybe he can play that right wing role as well. Him more so than someone like a Benjamin Kramaski, because he's played that right back role before. He knows how to play on that side of the pitch.
He played
not
like
well.
2 games at right
Yeah,
back.
but not well.
I don't want
But
to. And that was
still,
when we didn't have a right back on the roster. So,
but still, I think he has the legs to be able to do that. And I know that right wing role, we call it the right wing, but in that 4-4-2, if we're saying, it's not going to be too much of a right wing, right? It's going to be a different sort of a right midfielder, midfield forward. So there's an opportunity there for him, but at least at this point in time, I think he's going to be a bench option, and a really good bench option at that.
We say this a lot. I don't know if I would say he's a bench option, because
he's a rotation option.
Yeah, I don't think he's the kind of guy you bring off the bench to impact a game. I think he's a guy you start and you get 75 good minutes from him or 90 good minutes from him. But his impact is more subtle and throughout than Matthias Rojas or Robert Taylor or Leo Campana last year, who come on and just have a game-changing moment. Mm-hmm. I had something and I completely forgot what it was. Okay, one of the key things we keep talking about in a lot of these Chat Stats and Fun Facts episodes is Mascherano wanting versatility from his players. And I wonder if there might be a step in the development of David Ruiz that we aren't expecting. We don't have to speculate what that might be because we don't know. But I wonder if Mascherano sees a young player and he thinks, I bet this guy could do these 2 other things that no one else is seeing him do. And I do wonder if there's maybe a little bit more to David Ruiz's game that we will see in 2025, just because I think Mascherano might want to tinker with a player like this who's got a good all-around solid set of skills and the athleticism to do a lot of different things. So I'm curious to see what might come of that.
And he's playing really well with his national team. He's playing well for Honduras, seems to be a regular starter for them. And towards the end of the season, correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought he was getting more minutes off the bench and he was actually playing well when I saw him. I thought he was good in the last preseason game as well when he came on for the second half for however minutes. And you're absolutely right. This may be an under-the-radar sort of a player who none of us are expecting to take that next step, but actually ends up doing really, really well because he has the skill set. And I don't see him as just a 21-year-old, because for me, in my mind, I thought he was a little bit older. And for a 21-year-old who still has a lot of his career ahead of him, I think he has all the tools in his box to be able to mold himself how he wants to and become a really solid player who can have a good impact for this team.
Okay, let's talk about predictions for 2025. Here's my over-under. Will he be number 1.5 on the team in international appearances? You mentioned his relationship with the Honduras national team. He does play a lot for them. And a lot of our biggest name stars don't play for the national team anymore. So number 1 or lower in terms of international appearances for Inter Miami players in 2025.
I want to say lower. You know why? Messi might have more. So I'm going to say lower.
Oh, I don't think Messi will have more. The one player that I think might have more is Velasco Segovia for Venezuela. That's the one name that I'm keeping in mind. But I think there's a real chance David Ruiz has the most. And listen, CONMEBOL down in South America, they're doing World Cup qualifiers, and in CONCACAF, because so many teams got auto qualified bids for hosting in 2026, they got their own thing going on. And so I could see a lot of games in CONCACAF, and I could see David Ruiz having a big role. We talk about him turning 21, stepping up and becoming a real professional. Well, that might not be as visible for him on Inter Miami because there's so much talent and depth in his spot specifically. But for the national team, I think that'll be very apparent. So that's my over/under. I think he might be number 1. I will say lower, but I think he might be sneaky number 1.
All right, we'll see.
Okay, anything else on David Ruiz before we wrap it up for today?
Surprise us, man. That's all I'm going to say. Surprise us, because this is one that I don't think anyone is tracking in terms of a development. And we've all had our eyes on other players. We all have expectations from other players, but he might actually surprise us. So let's see what happens.
Yeah, no, I said it earlier, but age 24, 25, I think he's going to be a stud for us if he's still on Inter Miami. And so make it 2020, make it age 21, man. Okay, guys, we will see you in the next one. Thanks for being here. Have a lovely day. Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in. Do us a favor and hit that like and subscribe button. Since our first viewer, sharing this with you all has been the very best part. So from the beginning until the end, thank you for being a part of this and have a wonderful day.